Needing everyone's support here, so I've got one more video here to do, and this one's actually going to be Kemetic related. So this is Lattes and Mockingjays, and I've talked about her before on my channel. If you haven't checked her out, link in description. This is her video on Kemeticism, and a lot of her points are correct, but I'd really like to clarify some things since she said that she's kind of been a little bit more interested lately in looking back at Kemeticism, and of course, we are the Kemetic Witch. So let's go ahead and dive into her video, and we will address things as they come up.
How is everyone out in YouTube land? I'm good. Hope you are too. This is going to be just a short fact video on Kemeticism. Kemeticism lately has caught my interest. I don't know if it's a path I will pursue because I am also looking into other religions, but I've been kind of moving beyond Wicca. Even though I still feel I have a lot of Wiccan beliefs, I still want to look beyond them. So these are just a few facts that I know so far. Kemeticism is basically Egyptian paganism, or a pagan religion based around the Egyptian or ancient Egyptian beliefs. Kemet.
So, yeah, basically that's what it is. It's the religion that the Egyptians had during their prime, as well as what we modern practitioners call our revivalism, our reconstructed path.
Is a word that means black land. It's a name that the Egyptians used for their country. There is a Egyptian form of Wicca, basically where they would kind of incorporate maybe Egyptian rituals around Wiccan Esbats and Sabbats and such, or maybe just perhaps a Wiccan who focuses primarily or solely on the Egyptian pantheon, and that is called Tamarin Wicca, and which also comes from another word the Egyptians use called Tamare, which meant, I believe, beloved land.
So yes, that's correct. However, there is another form of Kemetic Wicca called Kemetic Wicca, or Egyptian Wicca called Kemetic Wicca, I should say. And that is basically, it's the practice of the Egyptian religion, but when it comes to witchcraft and magic, they insert Wiccan concepts, whereas I, as a Kemetic, when it comes to the magical parts, insert hoodoo into my Heka, which is, of course, Egyptian magic. It's the speech magic. So, Kemetic Wiccans, not Tamarin Wiccans, Kemetic Wiccans, they will follow a more Egyptian-based Wheel of the Year, although they do honor the Sabbats. They have the traditional setup with the 4 elements that a British traditionalist, Wiccan traditionalist or something, would have their kind of basic setup, whereas I follow a more worker type setup, whereas I have a space to work, and then my shrine is in front of me so that my gods are always, there in front of me and contributing to my work. So, there is Tamarin Wicca, as you said, Tamari, which is beloved land, Tamarin, Tamari, and they are Wiccan, but they follow the Egyptian gods. So there is a distinction. Kemetic Wicca is more Kemetic, whereas Tamarin Wicca is more Wiccan, outer court material. So I hope I've kind of explained that a little bit more clearly.
kind of a very pretty word, too. Now, one thing I like, and that's catching my attention, is the fact that many Kemetics are very, open to new ideas, and can be very, I don't want to say eclectic, but maybe that is the word, because a lot of them believe that the Egyptians themselves kind of took from the cultures around them, and
I don't know of a lot of Kemetics that would say that, except in the times of the Ptolemies, but that itself is still, I don't know. Myself personally, I believe the Egyptians influenced other religions. I don't think the Egyptians were influenced themselves necessarily by those other cultures. I'm sure it happened to some degree, because, I mean, eventually you have, Greek art that starts to pop up in Egyptian culture, so I guess to some degree it does happen, but mostly it's Egyptians influencing other cultures, because whereas the Egyptians may have gotten certain patterns from the Greeks got whole fucking gods which were combo deities of their gods and the Greek gods, and they've got stories like Atlantis and stuff through Egypt, so, or at least they claim it. So I don't know. That's my perspective on that.
Egypt did go through a lot of different changes, I guess, with the different pharaohs and other things. Again, I'm not an expert on any of this. And there were also different deities that were worshipped more or less in different parts of the country. So, and with the arrival of the Greeks and other people, a lot of the attributes of their deities did change. So, some of them are open to different ideas. Some of them are open to practicing different religions along.
So, the whole, open to different ideas thing is sort of a concept of both and, because the Egyptians, whatever concept they held, even if it was contradictory, was correct and accurate. And I'll give you an example for this, okay? In the very, very old beginning myths, Tahuti does something, okay, associated with mummification. And then later on, you have a king who says, no. Anubis did this. And he becomes linked to mummification. For political reasons, or whatever, okay? It's the new myth that ties into this pharaoh's idea of something that happened to him in his childhood, okay? Whatever. Alright, whatever. For political reasons, it changes. But both stories are correct. And while some people think Tahuti still does it, some people think it's Anubis now, it doesn't matter. They're both correct. Akhenaten, alright, he introduced first the idea of all gods being the Aten. And Horus would be the manifestation of the Aten. Osir would be the manifestation of the Aten. Sekhmet is the manifestation of the Aten. The Aten is the ultimate, and he presents himself as this one facet, this idea of God, until eventually it evolves into monotheism, and it's just the Aten, and it's no other gods. And then the Egyptians are like, no, fuck you. We have our other gods. And that's 20 years of that bullshit. We don't need no more. And they called him the heretic, and they tried to erase his ideologies. So you have many creators. You have Amun, you have Ra, you have Amun-Ra. You have creators who are female. You have Harishif. You have just tons and tons of creators that are all different and yet are all correct. So, the idea of being open to new concepts, I would think, stems for that. At least it does, again, for me, because I can only speak for me.
With Kemeticism, as long as you keep them separate. And what I mean by separate is don't worship or give offerings to Isis the same way you would to Ganesh in the Hindu religion.
So, I do somewhat agree and yet disagree with this, because me personally, when it comes to offering, I do something similar to what the Hindus do. I present the offering. I will actually pass my sistrum, lightly shaking it just to make just the subtlest little noise to like call attention to it as I pass it over the offering. It's just a little ting 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 ting. As if to like lay it forth before the deities and be like, behold what I have brought you. Feast, my darlings, you know? So that's personally what I do. So, I think it's more important to acknowledge that what I do in that part of the ritual comes from a Hindu concept, more so than it is to say keep it separate. It may not be Egyptian, but it feels right to me. I know where it comes from, and I haven't had a complaint yet. So when I get a complaint, I'll let you know, and I will change that. But while I have advocated for authenticity, it's more of an acknowledgement of where that comes from, and studying the history of that to understand it more, so I always just advocate understanding what it is you're doing and why you're doing it, more so than anything else.
You can practice them side by side. Just respect the differences in culture. Most Egyptians or Kemetics do believe in an afterlife. The idea of
so most Kemetics are theists, and most theists believe in an afterlife because most theists believe in the concept of a soul. Okay.
Reincarnation is kind of iffy with them because the traditional belief is that the heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at. And Ma'at is both a concept and a goddess. And you can't really sum up the concept, really, but if you had to use words...
So, yes and no again. Your heart is weighed against the heart scarab, not necessarily your heart itself. And this was a scarab that was physically carved and on stone, or out of stone, and placed over your heart in your sarcophagus. And this is the thing that gets weighed on the other side. But on this scarab is a spell. And this spell is basically to prevent the heart from betraying you. It's going to lie for you so you can get into the afterlife. So I hope that kind of explains that. Now, you do a pretty good job with Ma'at here saying that she is truth, order, and whatnot. But that's not really a hard concept to define. She's truth, order, in the Egyptian way of life. And the Egyptians were all about being honest and ruling in their deities and expanding and their culture, what they were about. So, to be Egyptian, you would be honoring truth, honoring order, and honoring the Egyptian way of life. And that was Ma'at.
It's more like the order of the universe, truth and justice, and all that should be. And it is said if the heart is too heavy with sin and it outweighs the feather of Ma'at, that the person is destroyed forever.
Okay, so once again, if you get to the point of the Hall of Two Truths, typically at this point, if you don't actually have the heart scarab, you're going to have some kind of document that led you there, whether it be tomb reliefs or the Book of the Dead, or pyramid text, or coffin text, or whatever, you're going to have some kind of spell that got you to the Hall of Two Truths, which is where the heart scarab gets weighed. If you have that, you really don't have to worry about having your soul destroyed, okay? Because you have documentation left behind that you were a real person and you lived and you will not be forgotten because of it, and because that's true immortality, being remembered, okay? Not living forever, but being remembered throughout history. The pharaohs that we have found and that we have names for, they truly are gods because they will live forever in the memory that they were real people, that they really existed, because we have their bodies and their artifacts and everything else. So, again, you don't have to worry about being destroyed because your soul will be eaten by a Mit, who is the destroyer. And most people actually believe that it's basically a purgatory type place where it's just nothing. You don't go to heaven, there's no concept of hell, except in Duat, which is the outer places, which is where you go if you don't have these spells. And I have this whole video on Duat. But basically, you don't have to have your soul destroyed if you don't have this documentation, if you happen to have stumbled upon the Hall of Two Truths through whatever means. You can appeal directly to Osir, who is the ultimate judge in the Hall of Two Truths. This is his home. So, even if your heart scarab failed and your Anubis is like, look, bitch. Look at your scales. We know you evil. You can be like, Osir, look at my life. I know I've done wrong, but I've also done good. And I've definitely done more good than I've done bad. And wouldn't you say that I deserve some kind of happiness? Shouldn't I get a chance to live an immortal life in Duat with you and your glorious nature and redeem myself? So you really do have a chance to appeal to the judge for a lighter sentence. So that's the whole concept of that.
Now, some may take this as eternal damnation, and others may...
I don't think anybody really takes it as eternal damnation.
From what I know, believe that the person, their soul really isn't destroyed, but that bad personality is.
I haven't seen that. I'd love to see somebody argue that. For the most part, it really is just your soul gets eaten and it's destroyed.
And again, some may be open to the idea of reincarnation. Now, what I am wearing here, I actually got from Walmart, which I'm surprised.
It's beautiful. I love that Ankh. I really should wear something, but I'm just not into jewelry unless it's in my ears.
Yeah, Halloween's the only time you could find pagan jewelry. I don't know, that could be, like, insulting. Sorry, you're like...
Online. Everything online.
Seeing my fucking nose here. But it's kind of small. Let's see if I can get up close, because it's got a pretty gem in it. Yeah. That is the Ankh, and it's basically an Egyptian hieroglyph for eternal life. Now, some say if it is pointed downwards or in another direction, it will symbolize the passing into the afterlife.
Okay. We don't know what the Ankh actually means. We think it means life, and it's more metaphorical life, an eternal sort of being, because only the gods carried Ankhs. If you were a modern day pagan, or excuse me, if you were an Egyptian living in the old times, you wouldn't be wearing an Ankh around your neck. You'd probably be wearing an Eye of Horus around your neck to symbolize protection and all that is good and right with this world, because only the gods carried Ankhs to symbolize their immortality and their life force and their divine being. Okay?
Egyptian theology kind of varies too with people. Some will worship all the gods. Some say this god is a part of this other god. Some may, like myself, kind of believe that while the gods are individuals, they are actually just attributes or forms of one whole supreme.
So that's kind of like a soft polytheistic type view, whereas all gods are one god and all goddesses are one goddesses. Together they're all one, which is actually more of a plural form monolatry. Whereas there is one divine being who splits into these two archetypes of male and female, who then split themselves into the various deities, like Sekhmet, Hathor, Mut, what have you, okay? I'm not one of those people, but the Egyptians themselves had a soft polytheistic view with some of their deities, because their deities adopted different aspects of one another. Look at Isis. Isis used to have the throne as her crown because it was through the woman that the line continued. Yes, the man ruled, but it was the woman who birthed the next king. So there was the literal seat of Egypt was the woman. She was the throne upon which the pharaoh sat. Her crown changed to that of Hathor's, the divine mother's, the cow goddess. She got the two horns and the sun disk. So they adopted each other's aspects all the time. And you have many, many combo deities. In fact, you even have a sort of transgendered type combo deity in the form of Sekhmet Mut-Min or Mut-Min, depending on your own little interpretations of what the fuck's going on with that. So yeah, there's different concepts within the Egyptian theological views, and it kind of accommodates hard polytheists, atheists, and soft polytheists and pantheists and everything else, just because the Egyptians pretty much believed everything at one point or another.
Being. Either way, for the most part that I know of, God is usually God in general, or the God, or all the gods are usually referred to as Nature.
So Nature is one deity. Neteru is multiple deities. Excuse me. Neteret, with a T, is a goddess. One female deity. Okay? I hope that explains that.
So yeah, that is a little bit on Kemeticism that I know so far. Probably in my next videos I will try to give you the 42 ideals of Ma'at and some other information. So thanks for watching. There is a channel on YouTube called Kemetic Independent. You can look up Kemetic How To. Those are pretty good videos.
Yes, 1000% agree. Definitely look up Sharon Laborde, Kemetic Independent. Love the woman to death. Alright, so the 42 negative confessions that she sort of starts talking about here are again part of a spell that would have been carved onto the heart scarab, or that would have been recited like, I have not done these things, like, boom, etch-a-sketch, sin erased. So that is kind of been condensed by Sharon Laborde, Kemetic Independent, into the 8 Ma'ats and the 8 Isfets, and I have a video on that if you want to YouTube that. I don't know, maybe I'll leave a link, maybe I won't, depends on how I feel. I'm getting pretty tired. So that is it for tonight, guys. Senapte.